Hello, welcome to Intentionally Waiting, Season 2, Episode 4. So, I'm here. What are we going to talk about this week? So last week I had a cut. So I did a cut and I told you my testimony. Well, not everything, but a testimony that relates to why I show up every week for me and for you. And if you haven't watched that testimony, then you can go back and watch it. It is on YouTube and I think it's called My Testimony. Something like that. From freedom to, I don't know, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, go and read it. Go and watch it rather. But I think, I don't want to really go back on it, but one of the key reasons of doing it is because, sometimes you start something and you don't finish. So you start a journey and halfway through you get bored, you get fed up, and then you start another journey and you abandon the initial journey. And that's not something that I want to do here. Like, I really want to see this journey through. I really want to keep showing up for myself and for you. And I think having a why and understanding the why I want to do that keeps me going. It kind of like spurs me. It kind of like says to me, Clara, you got to keep doing, you got to keep going. It doesn't really matter the number of people that watch my channel, or whether I've got 1,000, 5,000, or 1 or 2 people watching the episodes. It's just the fact that I'm getting it out there and it will reach the right people. I've got this belief that it will reach the right people at the right time, because there's no point in a message reaching somebody and it's the right message but it's the wrong time, because you're not going to assimilate it. So my prayer is that everything that I talk about and all the things that that goes on tape, literally, gets shown to the right people at the right time. And if it's done that, then it's done its job. So today I actually want to dig a little bit deeper into the intention phase of intentionally waiting. As you know, there are 5 stages to intentionally waiting. So there's attraction, intention, there's commitment, engagement, and then there's marriage. Those 5 stages. And we're on the intention phase at the moment. So we've moved past attraction and we're now in intention. And I have to say that it probably is way harder than the attraction phase. And I also think it probably will be the most difficult stage of them all. Because I'm guessing by the time you get to commitment and engagement and marriage, you kind of like know where you are. But when you're at the intention phase, you really don't know where you are. And this is the phase that gives you probably the most amount of emotion. And it's also the phase that brings out the most amount of vulnerability as well in you, because it's that I don't know phase. It's that, am I reading things phase? It's that kind of like, not sure about this phase. It's that kind of stuff where you're not sure about how people that are in your life view you. You don't know where it's going, or if it's not going. You don't know if it's starting or if it's stopping. You don't know if you're even running a race on your own. So you just don't know. You just know that there's people coming into your life and they're coming in and they're going and they're coming in and they're going, and that kind of scenario. You've got that kind of rhythm. And yeah, of course, it's almost like it's bound to make you kind of like sick in your belly. Like for the last couple of weeks, I've just kind of like been really sick in my belly, because like I feel like I don't know where I am. And this is not to do with any particular person or anything, but it's just to do with the whole process. So it's the whole process of the stopping and the starting, and people coming and people going. And sometimes you're kind of thinking, oh gosh, yeah, I quite like that person. I wish they'll stay, and then they go. Or you're thinking, I don't really like that. Yeah, I'm not really sure about this person. And then they're the ones that are staying and lingering, and you're thinking, will you go? But, like I said before, it's about being open. It's about let those that come, those that go. And it's not about trying to hold on to something not trying to hold on to something that may not necessarily be yours. So that's why I think that this phase is difficult. And so I'm struggling with it, and and I've struggled with God, and I've wrestled with God on it, because sometimes you just gotta say, God, can you just answer this question? Can you just let me know? The prayers that I always do is, if someone's not meant to be in my life, let them just kind of like walk away. And if somebody is in my life, then bring them. And one specific prayer for me is that I want to be able to be sat opposite the person so that I can see them and they can see me. And I want that situation. And that for me is kind of like one of the signs that this is a person that's a keeper. And as much as it is a sign for me, it's also an issue, because like I've had that happen in many situations, and I'm like, well, okay, like, okay, it happened then, and it happened then, and it happened with that person, it happened with that person, and so what's going on? What's going on, God? So what I really want to talk to you about is fasting, because even in the Bible, I remember there was a situation where I think they were trying to cast out demons from a person. I can't remember if it was a little boy or a girl or a grown man or woman, I can't remember, but I know trying to cast out demons from a person, and they couldn't do it. And they went to Jesus and they said to Jesus, like, how come it is that, all these different things we could do, but this particular thing we can't do? And what Jesus said at the time was that there were just some things that just can't shift unless they are backed up with prayer and fasting. And as you all know, I do pray. So it's not like I'm not in the prayer phase. So I pray, and I pray a lot. And like I've said to you in one of my previous videos, is that prayer is not necessarily being regimental, but it's about having a conversation with God and having that relationship with God on a continuous basis. So you can pray in your car, you can pray in the shower. A lot of times I do pray in the shower. You can pray while you're hoovering, or while you're ironing, or while you're doing stuff. It doesn't necessarily need to be like you're just focused on that one thing when you're praying. Because when you're talking to somebody, you can do different things when you're talking to someone, and that's the way it is when you're talking to God. You're doing all different kinds of things, and he hears you. Even before you've said anything, he hears you. So yeah. But fasting is a different thing, because like what's happened to me is I kind of like got into a phase of confusion, and confusion is very easy to get into when you're in the intention phase. One way of getting confusion out of the equation is by actually, if somebody comes to you, by you stepping forward and approaching the person and just seeing where they're at. That gets rid of confusion. Well, immediate confusion, because sometimes somebody may be at a particular point, but actually God knows more, God knows better. God knows that that situation is going to change, but that person might not know that that situation is going to change at that point in time. So they could be cold towards you, or they could have no feelings towards you, but God could be working on it in the background. So it's not always the case that when somebody says to you, no, no, never, it doesn't always mean no, no, never, unless God has also said no, no, never. So that's one of the reasons why I'm a little bit cagey about asking somebody outright as to, how do you feel about me? Like, do you think this is going anywhere at this particular phase? Obviously, I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. But when you are still trying to figure out if this is the kind of person that you even want to be with, I don't think it's the best time to have that conversation. And the other reason why people generally don't like to have that conversation is because it puts you in a vulnerable situation. You kind of like, you're at a point where somebody could, in your mind, reject you. And I know that, when it comes to, from what I believe, is that if something is for you, it's for you. And so therefore the right person will not reject you. But just having to go through other rejections impacts you, makes you more vulnerable, makes you feel like you're not 100%, makes you feel like you're not worthy. And I know you shouldn't feel all these things. You should really feel that, that you're on top of the world, and it's their loss, not your loss. And and if they came to your side, it would be their gain. Essentially, I know that, but we are human, and we've got to be real here. When we're human, we have human thoughts. We feel with human feelings. We have human feelings. I don't know what that was. It seemed like a burp, stroke, something else. But anyway, what was I saying? That always happens. That always happens. Okay, Clara, get back on track. So what I was saying is, so therefore, when you feel vulnerable, you kind of like go back into your shell, and then you don't want to be in that situation again. So you then don't want to you don't want to put yourself forward. So for me, I've decided I'm not going to go down that route where, I'm going to be that forward to say, hey guys, what you doing here? Are you actually being serious about me or not serious about me? I'm not at that phase yet, because I don't even know myself if it's ringing true that this is the kind of person, or this is the sort of person that I should be with in the first place. So why put myself through all of that if at the end of the day God's going to go, well, it's not him anyhow. So let's just back up a bit and relax. So this is where fasting comes into play, because when you are in this period, like I'm in this period, what happens then is you get all confused, because you get mixed messages. One minute it's like, oh yeah, the person's great. The next minute, oh God, no way, I wouldn't deal with that person, not with the bath pro. Then the next minute it's like, oh yeah, maybe, okay, I'm feeling it. And next minute it's like, oh, definitely not, stay away from me. And that creates confusion. So, and sometimes you might go, oh, if the person phones me today, then it's a sign. The person phones you today, and then you're like, oh, great. If the person phones me tomorrow, it's a sign they don't phone you tomorrow, and then it's like, oh, okay. So all of these, you're just playing pranks on yourself. And I think God doesn't necessarily want you to be in a situation where you're confused, because he says, I am not a God of confusion. So by default, you should not be confused. Anything that he brings your way should not create confusion. So you got to get into a position of being still. Being still, so that you can navigate this phase without fear. And you can navigate this phase, although being vulnerable, but not being protective, and not feeling that your ego's being destroyed in any way. So that you can navigate it and go, you know what, if the person's for me, the person will stay. The person's not for me, the person will go. But my role in this is to figure out whether this person actually aligns with the values that I have, actually aligns with the kind of things that I'm seeking for in a partner, actually aligns with the things that I have actually written down, the things that I'm looking for from a life perspective, actually aligns with my purpose, my goals, my desires, and things like that. But to be able to do that, you need to do that from a position of peacefulness and stillness. And this is where, for me, fasting has been absolutely uber. So I have been on a fast, and to be fair, God told me to go on a fast. So it's not like I purposely put myself on a fast. It was almost like, girlfriend, you're too crazy at this point. You need to go on a fast. So fast. So anyway, so I put myself, God put me on a fast, or told me to have a fast, and I was obedient. So I went on the fast for 3 days. And the first day was really difficult, because I'm not kind of like a breakfast person, really. So I generally tend not to have breakfast. I can have brunch and move on. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's another discussion for another day. But when you're fasting, you get hungry real quick. And I was starving. The first day I was just like, all I could think of was my food. All I could think of was my cakes and my biscuits. And I don't even have that in the morning. I could just think of all the beautiful recipes I was missing. That was all I could think about in the first couple of hours. And I had to focus myself and tune myself off. I went even through a phase where I'm thinking, if I don't have something now, I'm going to faint and stuff like that. And that didn't happen, because I was literally on a fast where, and they call it the Daniel fast. And the Daniel fast is where you fast with fruits and vegetables. But I further compounded it with, I wasn't going to start eating until 12:30. So it was 12:30 start in terms of anything like food or drink go through my mouth. And then when I did eat or drink, it was water only, either hot water or cold water. And then it was fruits and vegetables. And it was only natural occurring sugars and things like olive oil and things like that. So that was my diet for 3 days. And like I said, the first day it was tough. And you know what, I was quite bold, because I was like, you know what, God, since I'm fasting, I'm going to ask for all these things. I was asking God for all these things. I was like, I'm fasting. So, because I know that when you fast, you're more spiritually heightened, and that's a great time to ask God for stuff. So, and I was asking God for all these things. I was like, God, when I finished up my fasting, I want you to show me this and show me that and prove me this and do that. I had this whole long list of the answers that I wanted from God. So day 1 was a bit difficult. Day 2, I started to feel a bit more comfortable, and I was, I could tell really a separation between my physical body and my spiritual body, because I could see that my physical body was weak, but my spiritual body was getting stronger and stronger. And I was leaning more into prayer, and I was leaning on God, and I was talking to him more, and I was getting a lot deeper in conversations, and I was listening more. And there's something that happens with fasting. It's almost like you get heightened in a way, like, your sensory motions or motives or motors, call it motors. Your sensory motors are kind of like heightened a bit more. And I was able to go into really a place of peace, of quietness, of stillness. I was able to talk to God. And what I didn't realize what was happening in the background was the confusion was kind of like, was dissipating. Like, I was really anxious before, and I was like, almost like, I don't know, almost like, in a way, yeah, not just anxious, but had this, like I said, I had this sickly feeling, and that started to disappear, and I started to feel a lot more peaceful. And then by the time I came into day 3, I was fine. I was no longer concerned about if something is yes or no. I became a lot more bolder in my thought process, and I had clarity. I had 100% clarity on what I needed to do, and I was therefore also prepared to do it. And I was ready for almost anything that came my way. It's almost like I had a spiritual kind of like strength within me that I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm ready for you. Come, show me what you can do, and I'll show you who I am, kind of scenario. But what I actually realized was that God was taking me through a process, and God was settling my spirit, and he was calming me down, and he was removing any kind of confusion that I had, because he knows I can't operate under confusion, and he knows that his will can't come into play under confusion. So by the time I got into day 3, I was so calm. I was like, wow, this is really good. Like, I felt better. I felt revitalated, and I felt closer to God as well. So now, like, the fasting period is over. So I've done the fasting, and but it really helped me to know that God gives us tools to help us to deal with the situation. And I think when you go into the phase of intention, this is a tool that you're going to need. You're going to need a tool to fast. And whether it's fasting because you're wanting a specific answer, like, God, this person kind of like seems to be on my level, and I kind of seem to be connecting with this guy. Like, should I be moving into commitment with this person? Should I be moving into the next phase? If you want specific answers, then it's great to go into fasting, because sometimes prayer alone just doesn't cut it. So for me, as I go a little bit more deeper, it might be something that I do again. So if I get to the point just before I'm thinking about, yeah, actually, you know what, I think it's time that we probably start looking and thinking about commitment and having those conversations. Before then, I may well go into a fast and go, God, you know what, is this a move that I should be taking or not? Because sometimes our minds want us to do one thing just because it kind of like makes it feel better, but really we're supposed to be doing something else. So I just really wanted to share that with you, and just to show you how powerful it is and can be if you use it as part of your lifestyle. But I think definitely for this phase, if anybody's going through this phase at the moment, you definitely need it to get clarity. To be able to know how to move on to the next phase, and also just to be in this phase. So I can be in this phase now, and I'm fine. Like, I can talk to people without having to think, oh, does it mean something? The fact that the person's responding back to me, does it mean that, yeah, like, this person's interested in me? No, I can really be intentional about figuring out whether this person should really even be in my life, kind of stuff, before I have to even go to God and say, God, hey, like, this is what I think, what are you saying? So that's just what I wanted to share this week. aside from that, yeah, it's been a great week. It's been a uber busy week, lots and lots of stuff work-wise I've been doing, and connecting with people. So yeah, it's been one of those weeks, and I look forward to next week. I look forward to showing up next week. Like I said, if you haven't seen any of my videos before, this is the very first one you're seeing. Go back. This is my second series. I've already done series 1, which started last year. That last year will be 2021. Started 2021. So go and watch those. They're readily available. And we are now in season 2. And we're literally halfway into season 2. So yeah, we've got, probably about 5 or 6 more episodes of season 2. And then we'll take a break before we move into season 3. And as I always do at the end of the podcast, I read to you a prayer that I have done specifically for this podcast, and I'm going to read out what I have for today. So my prayer today is, Dear God, thank you for giving me the tools to help me navigate my life. In a time of confusion and conflict, you have given me a way to get clarity. Help me to always remember that you are my provider, not just in the physical needs, but also spiritually. As I lean into all you have to offer, may I come to you with prayer and fasting so that I may draw closer to you in all ways and in all times. Through Jesus Christ, my Lord and Saviour, I pray. Amen. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.